Well, how you doing today?
I want to hear about you.
Yeah?
Yeah. The only thing I have to report is I've been yelling too much at work, so my throat's a little raspy.
Yeah?
I'm not sick. I feel like $1 million. It's just...
You look like $1 million.
Thanks, buddy.
Always.
I just have a very, I dare to say, sensual voice today.
Wow.
No. But yeah, I was doing a little too much yelling at the folks at the gym.
I get that.
In a good way, not like screaming at them.
You suck!
You suck. That's come to Eupraxia, get screamed at. No, just projecting a little bit too much. But,
I get that. I get that.
what's going on?
So I want to hear from you because I know you have a lot of thoughts on this, and I struggle at putting your thoughts into practice and the things I know into practice.
Mm-hmm.
And so what the struggle has been is that there's one thing that goes awry, and then it's like a domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a theory.
Yep.
And correct me if I'm wrong, that it isn't as much of a domino effect as it feels like a domino effect.
Okay.
And it's more just like my mood and my perception that makes it seem like a domino effect. And so like these other things that are going wrong aren't really like that big of a deal. But in my mind, I'm just convinced, and mostly because of my attitude and my perspective on life, just feels like, all right, now everything is going wrong.
Yeah.
I want to preface this by saying that there are countless people in my life that love me and care about me and pick up when I'm having hard weeks and bless me in those hard weeks. And I've had that this past week. And like without those blessings, I'd be in a much darker place than I am now.
Yeah.
But it all started, I think, like last Tuesday. And Titus...
You got sick too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I was sick. Or maybe it wasn't last Tuesday. Maybe it was a couple Tuesdays. No, I think it was like last Tuesday.
Because we didn't record last Tuesday because you were sick.
Yeah, because I was sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our whole family, like the house has been just like a sick box.
Dang.
We've had strep. We've had stomach bugs, everything in there. So I'm so glad that we can be breathing same air.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah, it has been. But there was one day where it was either because I was sick or Titus was sick or something. And I think it was like 2 weeks ago. And I couldn't go to the gym to exercise. And I was disappointed by that. Yeah. And so the obvious thing that I did was eat a cinnamon roll.
Of course.
And so I ate a cinnamon roll.
Of course.
And then like sickness just kept coming on and kept coming stronger with me and my kids. And then we had issues with vehicles, which we always have issues with vehicles. Yep. And navigating that and scheduling has been really off, and I haven't been able to meet with people like I like to meet with people this past week. So it's not like things are actually going wrong. It's just my perspective on things is that everything's going wrong. Yeah. And it's not.
Right.
But that's just my perspective on it. And when I'm in that zone, like logically I can tell myself that, but it's really hard for me to pull myself out of that funk.
I think it's hard for everybody.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. I think a big part is momentum works in both ways.
Dang.
Momentum works in both directions.
If I could drop this mic and it not be loud, like I would. That was...
I've been thinking about this recently, is like one small shift, positive or negative, like is a catalyst in either direction. And part of it is your perspective, and a big part of it too is your thought process and your actions. And I do this all the time. But when people are in a funk versus when people are, crushing it, so much of it came from like a day where they either had a really bad day and momentum took them down, or they're just like, all right, I'm going to get up early. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to prep my food for the day. I'm going to eat good. I'm going to say a prayer. I'm going to start my day with my Bible. I'm going to practice gratitude this morning. Not to say things can't go wrong on those days. Yeah. But you kind of set the ball rolling one way or the other. In general, for me, I found that when I'm in a funk, it's because one thing went wrong, and then I decided to go to Culver's. And now since I already ate a concrete mixer, and this other thing happened, and I feel like crap, I might as well take a nap and not get anything done. Might as well play on my phone and scroll the day away, you know? So yeah, I think that one little thing can catalyst us in one direction or the other. And sometimes we stay too focused on that negative thing. And it's perspective for sure. I recently saw a high school kid I went to school with, a couple grades below me. He just posted something on Facebook recently. And I don't want to get it wrong, but I think he said it's like PCS. So it's a medical condition where his liver is essentially not going to work properly. And he found out about it in his 20s. Like, he's a crazy good athlete from high school, from what I remember. And just a really good guy. And he was just saying, basically telling his story about how he's got this PCS. And he's going to need a liver transplant someday. And it's affecting things. And he can't, like, do everything that he used to be able to do. And he went down this like spiral. Like he's like talking about, he was being really open, saying like he was depressed for the first time in his life. He stopped exercising, all these things. And then his video is basically a post of him saying, I've decided I'm going to fight back. Like, I'm not going to let this like ruin my life. I'm going to live my life the best I can. And perspective again, which is huge, is it sounds, I don't know if this sounds bad. Maybe it does, but excuse me, when our life is in a bad spot, it often pays to look at people who have it worse, right? Like, I think it's important to understand struggles that other people struggle, understand your own struggles, and not undermine them. And I know sometimes hearing people, like me talking to you, I'm tiptoeing because I don't want to undermine the fact that things are going bad. Yeah. Like, because that sucks, being the person opening up, saying like, I'm struggling with these things. I don't want to be the person to come back and say, well, you really shouldn't whine and complain, because I don't want to hear that when I'm explaining things that I'm struggling with too. Yeah. You want people to empathize. And like I've talked to my wife before about, let me know if you want me to just listen and be with you in the struggle, or if you want some advice, because I keep burping. That's my struggle.
It's a struggle.
But a lot of times she'll say like, I just want to tell you about my day, and I want you to like empathize with me when I said things suck. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do that. But for me, it's helpful to like watch that video of my high school buddy who's like, hey, I'm going to need a liver transplant. I can't do all these things, but I'm going to fight it. Sometimes I'd be going for a run. I don't run as much anymore. I probably should. But I think of a different high school buddy of mine who was going skiing, snow skiing, downhill skiing, and he's paralyzed. I can't remember how it happened, if he hit a tree or something, but dude can't walk. And then it's like when I'm going for a jog and it hurts a little bit, I'm like, dude, I got 2 functional legs. That's awesome. You know, things can suck and people can get sick, but you got Sophia and Titus and a loving wife. Like, dude, that's amazing. Yeah. Like, it really does help to almost pretend for a second, like visualize not having that. Yeah. Like, you don't have a wife that loves you. You don't have the kids that come and hug you and want to play with you. You know, you don't have a church community that's like here to support you. Yeah. Like, you don't have close friends, just for a second, and then come back and be like, wow, this is pretty awesome. That's helpful for me. Yeah. To put that in perspective, like, even though things do suck and bad times happen, it's
I don't think you realize how difficult. So this morning, though, I started the washing machine and then I took a shower. And so the water wasn't as hot as I would have liked it to be.
It wasn't the perfect temperature.
My life is pretty miserable now.
Dude, I really think Satan works through just constant, like, little things. Like, oh, eggs are now $7. You should think the apocalypse is coming. And
that's totally how everything, because like, it feels like it's just like this wearing down.
It is.
Like, I can, like, you take one punch, and like, you're fine. But then like the little punches feel like big punches.
Oh man, it's because you're already down and you're just like, just stop kicking me when I'm down. Yeah. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, especially with me, it's like having that one day where like you get something productive done, or you had like one good conversation with someone, and it turns everything around.
Yeah.
But I wish that I wasn't dependent on that.
So I know I get, what is the word? Like philosophical a lot.
Yeah.
But I also have been hearing stuff from like the Stoics.
Yeah.
I think it's Ryan Holiday, whatever. He talks about the Stoics a lot. And one of the things he said was not letting other people and circumstances around you dictate your emotion. Because then you're saying that you're completely at the whims of everything that happens to you. And you're just a kite in the wind. And however the wind blows you is where you're going to go. And you have no foundation of, I'm this person. I have all these incredible things. God loves me. And I can do all this good for the world because I was put here for a purpose and all these great things, right? And if you can't sit and know who you are and just be like strong and solid and firm, dude, life is tough.
Yeah.
We weren't put here to just coast and have all these, wonderful things happen to us every single day. It's just not how life is. Yeah.
And it's like, it's the stuff that's not necessarily reality that throws us out of whack. It's like so one of my good friends, Dean, a mentor of mine, he always talks about how there's like different levels to who we are.
Yeah.
And so often we're like focused on that top level. We're just like every little thing flusters us. We're affected by the storms.
Very emotional.
Yeah, very emotional. And we're missing the reality of who we are, missing the reality of what is real around us and what is true around us. And so often I get, it's weird to say, and help me process this, but I almost get comfortable in that top level of confusion, rather than stopping for a few minutes and just breathing through it and recognizing reality and coming back to terms about what is true about who I am and who is in me, and rather than just my water wasn't as hot as I like.
A lot of our suffering too is imagined. Like we stress about things that aren't even current. Like right now, I'm sitting talking to you.
Yeah.
But I could be like, oh, well, I have all these, bills I got to pay, and what if this happens, and what if that happens, and what if nobody shows up to the gym?
So many what ifs.
And if you're constantly living in the suffering of things that aren't even happening, you are going to be miserable.
Yeah.
Instead of like, just maybe that bad thing will happen that you're worried about, but don't let it ruin your current state of it not even being reality. Like you were just saying, is there's a difference between living in the what ifs and the stressing about all the little things and just being present in what is real and what is good, right?
Yeah.
It's back to the Bible. Whatever is good, whatever is pleasant, whatever is all the, you know the verse better than me. But think about those things. And obviously God knows what he's talking about, but the more I study mindset stuff, how you think is who you become. So if you're constantly thinking, the world's out to get me, everything's attacking me, this thing's hurting me, I'm down, I can't do it. Guess what? That is your truth. And that is who you are. And you're now a victim to all of those things. Yeah. Versus looking at everything and say, hey, I can do this. I've been through this, and this, and I'm still here. I got all this support. Everything's going to be fine. God's in control. Whatever happens, and I'm going to make the most of it. Yeah. It's like, okay, then that is who you're going to be. Yeah. And the problem with being up on that level, like you're talking about, is I think that's the unconscious cruise control. Yeah. Is allowing what people say about you, comparing yourself to others, circumstances in your life, like negative things that happen, allowing that to dictate how you feel and how you act and how you live your life. It's human nature to do that unconsciously. That's how most people do, or act and react to everything that happens instead of being a strong, base, strong stone, foundation. Yeah. And then letting everything happen, but not letting that change or affect you so negatively. But I'm not saying I'm good at that or I'm perfect at that.
Yeah.
It's just
Well, I think that's
focus. Something you have to actively participate in doing the positive thinking.
And that's where practice comes in, and
Yeah.
it's so important that, like, if you are practicing breathing, if you're practicing prayer, if you're practicing kind of these grounding things that ground you to reality, that when you go through these difficult times, then you're going to be more equipped to do that as well. But I know, like, lack of sleep, not working out, poor eating, like all of that stuff, it makes it so much harder for me to do that grounding. And so much harder for me to settle into the reality of what's going on and who I am. Because life is hard.
It's hard. Dude.
Life is hard, and if we get so bogged down with the things that make it hard, the thing that blows my mind, and everything that you're talking about is how it ties so well with Scripture, in that, like Paul says, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. Like, that doesn't make sense logically to me, because we say that life is hard, and it really sucks sometimes, and suffering is real, and like real suffering, not just like your water's not as hot as one, like real suffering is out there. And then Paul says to rejoice in the Lord always. And again, hear me again, rejoice. Like, how is that possible? How is that doable with the reality of the struggles of life? And I think it goes back to what you were saying, is that when we kind of take a breath and recognize the reality of the situation and those joys that we do have in life, most of which being a God who loves us unconditionally, even when life sucks, those things bring a sense of peace and hope, even in the suckiness of life.
Yeah. I think we focus a lot on the like material things too. And then like we associate our value with how much money is in our bank account, how our car is running, what our car looks like, the clothes we're able to buy, all the things that are hanging on the wall in our house. Like, if you don't have all those boxes checked, you feel lesser than. And it's like, Shereen, my wife, her house burnt down when she was a kid. So they ended up having to move here to the States. She's from Jamaica. So their Jamaican home burnt down. They lost everything. And I say that because that could happen to anybody. Your car could break down. You get in a crash, it's totaled. Your house could burn down. And we put so much value in all these material things. And those are the things that, unfortunately, we use to bring us like this temporary joy instead of relationships with people we love, or our relationship with God, which is the one thing that can't be taken away. Right. And it's, again, a practice, like you said, is like focusing on that. And when we're so distracted all the time, we don't even think about that. And then we have a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, a bad year. And we're like, oh man, maybe I should sit down and like work on gratitude for a second. Wow. It's sunny outside. I can breathe a full breath. Like, some people have one lung, like I actually had a buddy in the military. He got shot through the lung. He's fine now, but it's like, we take all these things for granted. And I think that's when we get into a bad spot, is like, look at what we have and just take a second to imagine you don't have it. And then be like, oh, wow, I got this. This is awesome. I can do this. And focus on, even if you're faking it, like fake it till you make it. Like, just pretend you're going to be fine. For a while, I'm going to be fine. I got this. Even if you don't believe it, like telling yourself in your brain, it actually works. Like, over time, if you keep saying it, like, I'm going to be successful in whatever your version of success is. Tell yourself that every day versus there's no chance I'm going to make it. Guess what? When you're constantly saying that, it's going to come true.
There's no
and you're not going to make it. Right?
So why do you think, so you say, like, look at what you have and everything and be content with what you have. Why do you think that so oftentimes in the countries where these people don't have nearly what we have, that they're experiencing levels of joy and contentment that we don't?
Right. Yeah, it seems like depression and suicide is like way more prevalent here than third world countries, right? At least that's what I've heard. So Yeah, I think a big part of it is like the rat race, the comparison, the material longings.
Yeah.
Right. You're only good enough if you fly on a private jet. And then we see I saw a cartoon, and it was a guy walking, and he saw a guy on a bike, and the guy on the bike, he was like, "Oh, if only I had a bike, I could get there faster." The guy on the bike saw a guy in the car, and the guy in the car, or the guy on the bike was like, "Oh, if I had a car, that'd be great." The guy in the car saw a guy in a helicopter, and he's like, "Oh, if only I had a helicopter, I could." It's like you can always do if only, if only, if only. And again, you're going to be miserable. And I struggle with this too. And I think social media is a toxin for comparison. And they say,
in the helicopter is probably thinking, "Oh man, if I could only just walk to work, that would be great."
Yeah, right. Oh man, and he's like, "Oh, the payments on this helicopter are killing me."
But yeah, and I think you're absolutely right, and that's why I think when we get in the struggle, we focus so much on the struggle, and so this might just be me. I don't think it is, but when we go through difficult times, when we go through suffering and struggling and times of discouragement, like you said, we almost mark those times off as a wash. Like, all right, this day is ruined already. This week, if my Monday doesn't go how I was planned, then man, I just want a week where nothing goes wrong. So maybe that'll be next week. Instead of recognizing that life isn't the moments that are all going right, life is the moments. And so struggling isn't times taken away from what our life should be like. Struggling is our life, and life is a struggle. So when we're in those difficult times of life, it's not just have a holding pattern until I get out of this and then I can start living again. But rather, we live in the midst of the struggle. We live in the midst of the suffering. There's never going to be a time that there's not something going wrong. And so it's rather talking about how can the struggle and the discouragement and the funks, how can those build us, strengthen us, make us new? What benefit comes out of the suffering rather than just a life of trying to avoid the suffering?
And on that same note of what you just said is like what I see all the time with myself and other people who are trying to be more healthy and be fit and all this stuff is like eating, right? So food is a huge problem for a lot of people as far as eating healthy and avoiding the junk food and all that stuff. And I hear it from people, and I've done it myself. You eat one bad food, and then the rest of your day, you're just like, well, I already had this thing. I might as well just binge and gorge myself on junk because this day is shot anyways. So it's like, it's already lost, so I might as well just do that and the other thing. And obviously that's the wrong way to go. But I think it comes back to your thought process again. Because let's just say for breakfast, you go to McDonald's instead of going home and making eggs, right? I went to McDonald's instead. Now my thought process is I failed because I didn't want to do that, but I did it anyways. So now I'm a failure. And what does a failure do? They continue to make that same decision for the rest of the day. Which is why I think we go down that path of, I already did this, that now this day's shot, I'm a failure. I will continue to fail because you're like self-prophesizing. What is it? You're a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. And it's like, it happens all the time. And then that turns into a week, and that turns into a year of I'm a failure because I went to McDonald's once, and now it's 5 years down the road and you're 200 pounds overweight, and you're just like miserable about it. It's like, you're not. You made a human decision, which so many people do, and now you just got to make the next one. And it's that momentum. So just change that catalyst, make one good decision, tell yourself, I can do this. I'm a person that makes good decisions for myself, and then keep doing that. Right? Obviously, it's tough. It's really tough. But I see it all the time, and I've been there too.
I got to brag on Titus. Titus is my 4-year-old little boy, and he's just the sweetest little guy. But we were playing something, and I forget what it was. We were probably playing superheroes or something. And I knocked over a bowl with some snacks in it. And he said, "Oh, Dad, you failed." And I said, "Yeah, I'm a failure." And he looked at me with the most sincere eyes and said, Dad, you're not a failure. And he came over and gave me the biggest hug.
Oh my
I was just like, whoa, like this 4-year-old.
My heart just melted.
How amazing is that? I'm so
That is
proud of that
amazing.
guy. But it's so easy to tell ourselves these lies and again find comfort in failing and find comfort in making
There is something comfortable about it.
Oh yeah.
About just making conscious or unconscious bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, and just kind of like wallowing in your own like discontent with yourself.
Yeah.
There's something, especially if you've been there before, it's almost an addiction to feeling sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's harder to admit that you're in control of most of your life, not everything.
Yeah.
But most of your decisions, you're in control. And it's not fun to say, it's really my fault. And I should start doing this, and this.
Yeah.
It's easier to say, well, this happened, this happened, this happened. And I'm just going to keep going down this path of things that are comfortable.
Yeah. And maybe like it might not be your fault, but your response in the situation is
Your response is your fault.
Yeah.
How you act is always yours.
But it's just exhausting.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah.
So I talked about this song on Sunday, but 10th Avenue North sings a song called Worn. Have you ever heard it?
Worn.
It says, I'm tired, I'm worn, my heart is heavy from the work it takes to keep on breathing. I've made mistakes, I've let my heart fail, my soul feels crushed from the weight of this world. And I know that you can give me rest. So I cry out with all that I have left. Let me see redemption win. But that's like where I was this past week.
Yeah.
And I know it like sounds silly because like things weren't going bad, but it's just like this exhaustion of not getting much sleep at night.
Oh, dude.
Kids being sick. Like all that stuff was just wearing on me.
Yeah.
And then I had friends bless us and love on us, and that was rejuvenating.
Yeah.
And then our kids were up 2 nights in a row throwing up, and so it is like this wearing down. But it's in the midst of that, in the midst of being physically exhausted, in the midst of being physically drained, and I mean, a lot of those things are, like you said, my fault, dehydrated and not eating well and things like that.
Not getting sleep isn't really your fault though, and that's a huge thing. I am awful when I don't have sleep.
This past week, I have drank more coffee. I don't drink coffee. You know that. I don't drink coffee. I'm not a coffee guy.
Yeah.
But this past week, I have drank coffee in order to get through the week. And it's weird. Like, I don't want to start drinking coffee.
You don't want to be the coffee guy.
No, I don't want to be the coffee guy.
Yeah.
I want to be able to get through a day without it.
I wonder the last day that my dad has gone without having a cup of coffee. I bet you. That's
like so many people though.
I know, but I just think of like the habitual coffee people.
Yeah.
And it's like my parents are those, but like I wonder if my dad has gone a day without coffee since he was like single digits, like 9.
Since he was 9. Pounding back that espresso.
Well, he did. Oh, no. He did tell me when he was a kid that milk was too expensive and coffee was cheaper, so that they would drink coffee as kids.
Seriously?
Yeah. I don't think it was as big of a deal as like concern with caffeine for like children.
Yeah.
I don't think they really cared. But yeah, he said he was drinking coffee when he was a kid. I bet he's had a cup of coffee every day since he was 7 years old. He's single-handedly keeping Colombia relevant and on the stocks. The coffee people are coffee people. I'm one of them. Yeah. If it's not coffee, it's caffeine in some sense. And if you try and get off of it, it's brutal. I've done it a couple of times. Yeah. It's when you're a regular caffeine user and you give it up for a while, the withdrawals are pretty severe for like a few days. But yeah, so if you can avoid becoming a mainstreamer, a mainline coffee user.
That's right.
Yeah.
So when you get in these funks, what does it look like for you? How do you act in the midst of it? And how do you get out of it?
That's a phenomenal question. Like I said, a lot of times it's easy to coast in those mindsets, and that's what I do a lot of times. Is it'll take me a while. I'll go through it for a week or a month or two, and a lot of times it's really a lot of negative self-talk, right? And then that becomes the momentum, and sometimes it takes just a conscious decision of, okay, starting tomorrow, because I still want to have some junk today. Starting tomorrow, I'm turning a new leaf and it's a new beginning, and I can do this because I've done it before. Oftentimes I'll look back to my past because of all the positive momentum, leaps that I've had, periods of time where I've gone months or years of just being like on it. And it's like, if I've done it once, I can do it again. Like comparison in the good sense, right? Which is what I'll use for things at the gym is like, hey, Sally did it. You can do it too, right? If a human's done it before, you can do it again, especially if you have your own memories or recollection of times you've done awesome and crushed it. It's like, oh yeah, like I am capable of this. And I know I feel better when I'm doing these things. I often will think back to when I was in college and feeling the best I've ever felt and the most productive I've ever felt. I would work out just about every day. I would have morning Bible reading just about every day. I ate really good, and I would meditate for like 10, 15 minutes every day with like a YouTube self-guided meditation. I also wasn't using social media nearly as much. So, excuse me. Excuse me. So it's a combination of those things. I know it works. And there's such a big gap, I feel like, between knowing and doing what you know, right? They say knowledge is power. That's not true. It's knowledge plus action on that knowledge is power. Because you can know everything. You can know the secrets to the universe, but if you sit on the couch and scroll Instagram and Facebook all day, it's not power. You got to act on it. So just one small step. Go get that workout in. Dude, when you're getting a workout in, like a pretty intense, like a eupraxia style workout, like a 30-minute high intensity, like your brain adjusts to be like, man, I did that. I feel amazing now. I'm going to go attack my day. Like it is a catapult. If you're looking for a catapult to make a big change, one intense 20-minute workout can do that. And when you're in a funk, that seems like Mount Everest, right? So hopefully you can, go to a group class where you're not doing it by yourself, or, find a buddy to work out with you. But man, my brain will like start talking to me like mid-workout when I'm struggling to breathe, and like, be like, dude, we are having salad for lunch today, buddy. We can't keep, because I feel like the good voice, when you're working out, the good voice overcomes, and it's speaking louder. It's like, we can't keep digging ourselves a hole, dude. We can't. And you're just like, okay, all right, I can do it. That's what's helpful for me. That one tough workout is a huge step in the right direction for positive momentum to get out of funks.
Do you think it is healthy to normalize discouragement? Do you understand?
In what sense?
So, I obviously grew up with the mentality of you're struggling, get over it, move on, stop wallowing type thing. And while there's probably some value in that, I feel as though there has to be some value in like being okay with being in that place too.
I think you said it one time, maybe it was a different time we talked recently. You said learning to be okay with not being okay. And I think it's healthy to sit in that for a little bit.
Not make a home.
Right.
Not make a
but
home.
But allow it to process. You'd never tell somebody who's mourning a loved one to get over it.
Absolutely.
Like you have to allow that mourning process to go through before you can move on. Obviously, like discouragement of decisions you've made and like wallowing in self-pity or something that's completely different.
Yeah.
But if you're down, there's usually a reason. Like our brains are amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And almost everything they do, like there's a reason for it. And if you are feeling down, the problem is so many times we just escape it with our phones or, you know, distractions of whatever your vice might be, so that we don't feel down. But if
that's probably the
if
key,
you're feeling
I think, right
down,
there.
you got to figure out why.
Yeah. I think, and that's the key. Instead of, if you're down, like instead of just like getting caught up in the minutia of the day and the chaos of the day, be okay with just sitting in silence and truly processing why I'm feeling this way. Right. Truly processing the reality of the difficulties that are going on and the heaviness of those that are real. And then reminding yourself of the reality of those, of talking to God, who's able to do more in those situations, and recognizing who we are. But I think that's where if we're down and we're just trying to cover up that we're down with our vices and all that stuff, then we're just in the haze. And
it builds too. I think that's part of it, is it builds just like sleep deprivation. Yeah. If you get one night of not enough sleep, okay. You get 2 nights of not enough sleep, you add more coffee. Yeah. You get 3 nights of not enough sleep, you add more and more coffee. Yeah. Like if you get a full week of not enough sleep, it's not like, oh, you got one night. No, dude, that adds and compounds. Yeah. And I really do think it's the same thing with our our mental state. If you if you're constantly avoiding things that are bothering you, or issues, or what's bringing you down, all these things, and distracting yourself, it didn't go away. You're compounding the issue over and over and over again every time you don't address it. Yeah. And it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So you really got to take some time. And I think that's why meditation worked good for me when I was in college, is it was time for me to not be distracted and to let figure out, okay, who am I? What do I want to do? What are the issues going on? Or just let everything kind of go too, is also to not think for a little bit. Yeah. Because we're constantly thinking or having other people's thoughts put in our brain by watching things or listening to things. So to have that space to not think, I think is also important, that most people don't get.
So important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've sucked at that this past week. It just just being and just not always going and not always trying to fix things or make things better, and just stopping. That's a practice that I got really into. And then this past week, it went by the wayside because I just filled it with other clutter. Yep. But now that you're conscious of it and you've noticed it, you have a decision to make, right? Of if you're going to just keep going down that road, or, okay, my next thing that comes up, I'm going to go into it knowing that I can tackle this. Yeah. I can pray about it. I can talk to my friends to help me if I need it, right? Go with a different mindset, different perspective, to change the trajectory of where you've been going, which is currently down. Yeah, so I say the rest of this podcast, we just have 15 minutes of silence. All right, we're just going to breathe. I want to say one that
word.
Probably would be surprisingly helpful.
It actually probably would be.
We just had a track of breathing.
Pause it. Just pause it for 5 minutes and breathe. Yeah. Okay, play. One thing I wanted to say before I forget about it, because I heard this quote that I actually wrote and I put it up on my wall, and sometimes I see it and I think it's amazing. And it is, what belief would be most beneficial for you at this time? So it's kind of like the internal talk, like the self-talk and stuff like that. The perspective, it's everything kind of combined as what you believe the day is going to be, who you believe you are, what you believe about the future and what it holds. You get to choose what you believe about it, whether it's positive or negative or scary or exciting. And we want our life and everything to be beneficial to us. We're all creatures that want good things. And you can have a control of how you believe things will be or how you believe things are based off all those factors. So when things are not going so hot, pause and think to yourself, what belief can I have about now and the future that will be most beneficial for me? And then believe that instead of believing things are going to get worse and there's no hope and whatever. Change it.
Yeah.
Like your past does not dictate today. Your past does not dictate your future. You're not who you were 10 years ago. Nobody is. No, we're not who we were a month ago. And you get to decide what you believe about who you are and where you're going, all that stuff. So choose something that's beneficial for you. What belief are you going to choose for your day, for your future, for yourself? I believe this instead of that. I really like that a lot because when I'm in a tough spot and I walk past that on my wall, I'm like, okay, what belief is going to be most beneficial for me today?
And you get to decide.
You get to focus on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not going to be perfect, but at least you can
What's
shift.
your outlook going to be that day?
You can shift it.
Yeah. Have you heard the saying that I'm gonna mess it up, but the past is history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why they call it the present.
It's in Kung Fu Panda.
That's
baby.
the only place I know it from.
It's in Kung Fu Panda.
It's so good, man.
One of the best movies ever made.
Oh my word! You have never been more right in your life.
After you get done meditating,
I choose to believe that.
Go watch Kung Fu Panda.
Skadoosh.
It's good, dude. That's one of the best movies of all time.
Seriously, I relate with the panda very much so.
He's a panda. You're a panda. What are you gonna do, big guy? Sit on me? It's fantastic.
That's right. But you're right. Life is hard. We decide how we navigate it and how we deal with it. And there's incredibly heavy stuff. And in those times, I mean, I think it's okay to wrestle.
Yeah.
And to struggle and to find clarity.
And maybe examine why you're feeling that way.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, oh, I feel this way, it's not good. Yeah. Maybe it's needed. Maybe you need to feel that way because you're not making decisions that you should be making.
Yeah.
Obviously, things that are outside of your control, like your kids getting sick, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can't really necessarily put that on yourself to change it, whatever. Yeah. But if you're personally not feeling good, and it's been that way for a little bit, instead of escaping it, sit in it.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, I'm not feeling good mentally for a reason. Why? And then is there something I can do to change it? But you don't have to keep running from it. It's probably there for a reason.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah. I hear you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into details, but fostering is difficult. And there's a lot of different layers to it.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I, we foster an awesome 12-year-old boy right now. But there are so many different layers to raising someone else's kid and the dynamics between his parents and the system and also just caring for a 12-year-old when we have 4 and 6-year-olds. And those things are heavy, and those choices you make affect a lot of different people. But what I failed to do is what we've talked about so much today, is just sitting with those struggles and processing those instead of, this is hard, let me look at my Facebook. And
yes.
This is hard. Let me worry about my huge to-do list of everything that I got to get done and can't get done and then complain about it.
Right.
Rather just finding the time of this is life. And there is joy to be had, as masochistic as it might sound. There's joy to be had in the struggle. And I wish I understood how that worked in every situation. Like how can you lose a loved one and say rejoice in the Lord always? And again, I say rejoice. Like how can you get diagnosed with cancer and rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. Like, those things are hard, and I wish I understood the intricacies of them. But there is joy to be had even in the hardest of situations. And a lot of it comes down to, how are we going to choose to process them? How are we going to choose to deal with them and navigate them? And I'm either weird or normal, but the big struggles in life, maybe both.
Yeah.
The big struggles in life aren't the ones that shake me. It's the little struggles in life that I struggle with a lot more. So like when I was diagnosed with cancer, that wasn't like this groundbreaking trial for me.
Okay.
It was another thing we go through, and I trust the Lord, and we have an awesome church family that's going to take care of us, and I'm loved. It wasn't that big of a struggle, but my kids getting sick and me not sleeping enough, that's what puts me into a funk. Or losing loved ones. Even then, like, I don't know why it's easier for me to be stronger in the big crisis than it is the menial one. But nonetheless, it's about perspective, and maybe that's why. Maybe that's why. Because in the bigger struggle, I give my time to process. I give myself time to process the struggle.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
And I don't just write it off.
Yeah.
I give my time to sit and dwell in what is happening around me.
Yeah.
And go from there.
And maybe we pin, this is just my thought, maybe we pin the bigger things on God and then give it to God.
Oh, without a doubt.
Like the cancer thing. Like, oh, well, God's behind this, whether it's good
what's
or bad.
Happen.
Somebody passes away, God's behind it, good or bad. But if it's something like your kid getting sick, you put that on you, and that's your daily stress. And it's
what can I do to fix
right
this?
Here, right now. It's so much more in the moment and feels like you have to do it.
Yeah.
Versus giving it to God because it's such a big thing.
Yeah.
So that might be a piece of it.
It's absolutely a piece of it.
Yeah. It's hard to give God the reins on things that we feel like we should fix.
Yeah. Man, it's just so much easier to keep things in our control than to lose control.
Oh, dude. It's probably one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
Because you want to be in control. And I think that's a part of the momentum thing too, is to go back to what we were talking about earlier. When you make a bad decision, bad can be subjective, whatever, but let's just say McDonald's again, and you're eating junk. A lot of times you feel out of control because in your head, especially if your goal is to be eating healthier and you don't, you feel like these are my goals. I'm not doing the things I need to do to go after them. I'm not in control. Versus you get up early, you go to the gym, you're eating healthy food, you're checking off your to-do list, you're being productive, you're feeling good because you feel like you're in control then. Right? And when you feel in control of your decisions, you feel better and you got that positive momentum versus feeling out of control. Yeah. You feel like crap and then you spiral on out of control path. Yeah. And yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. But then what's in control in those times?
What do you mean?
When you're spiraling and choosing bad decisions, you feel like you're out of control. What have you given control over to?
Your immediate gratification.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's not like that.
It's your knee-jerk reactions.
Yeah, it's the knee-jerk reactions.
You're almost not even thinking. You're just going on autopilot until you decide like, oh, wait, like I don't want to do these things. Yeah. But my avatar is doing these things.
Yeah, exactly.
My body on autopilot is making these decisions because it's a quick dopamine hit and feels good. Yeah. But it's not what I want. Yeah. I'm not in control.
Instead of the real you being in control and God in you being in control.
Right.
Yeah, without a doubt.
It's tough.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me talk about myself a lot today.
I'm here for you, man.
I love you.
I think that's another big piece of it too, is being able to talk to somebody. Yeah. Not just sitting in your struggles alone. Yeah. If you have somebody that can listen, share your struggles with people. Yeah. Because sometimes just talking about it is extremely helpful. I think that's why therapists work for people sometimes. Is people don't want to burden people with their stuff.
Yeah.
But if I pay you,
I'm paying you to be burdened.
That's
with
why
my stuff.
therapists get paid. So people don't feel guilty about sharing their awful experiences.
That's right.
That's how it all started. Somebody was like, all right, I want you to confide in me. I know you don't want to burden me. So to make this even, I'll let you pay me.
I'll let you pay me.
That way you can tell me whatever you want. That way we feel it's even.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's important to talk.
I agree. Yeah.
So if you're listening and you don't have anyone to talk to, either find someone to talk to, you reach out to us, talk to us.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
We understand.
Maybe we'll end up getting callers at some point.
There you go.
In the podcast, we'll take phone calls at some point down the road, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Kelsey Grammer and Frasier. That's all I can think of.
I don't know. What that
Have you
is.
never watched Frasier?
No.
Oh my word.
I know of Frasier, the show.
Okay.
But I never watched it. No.
He's a radio host.
Oh.
And
Okay.
he's like I think like a psychologist guy. People
Oh.
would call in and
Like a Dr. Phil of the radio.
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I don't know. I watched through it for several years ago.
I don't know. I was a Seinfeld guy.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Oh my word. If you're not a Seinfeld person, you're probably
missing
not
out.
listening to us.
After you finish meditating and watching Kung Fu Panda, you need to start watching Seinfeld.
It will solve all of your problems.
Yeah. It'll distract you from the bad things in life.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening to us, guys. We appreciate it, and we're excited to continue this.
Yeah. On a final note, I was thinking of the Chinese proverb. You know that one?
Which one?
There's a Chinese proverb about good and bad things happening.
Okay.
So there's a farmer, and he has a couple horses and a son, and the couple horses run away, and all of his neighbors are like, "Oh, that's awful," and he's like, "Yeah, maybe." And then the horses come back with a whole herd of like wild stallions, and now they're rich. Like they have like 100 horses that came back, and all his neighbors are like, "That's amazing." And he's like, "Maybe." And then his son tries to tame one of the wild stallions. It kicks him off, and he breaks his leg. And they're like, "Oh, that's awful." And he's like, "Maybe." And then the recruiter from the military comes by because they're in war, and they're picking up any able-bodied man, but his son broke his leg, so they can't take him away to the army. And everyone's like, "Oh, that's so great." And he's like, "Maybe." So it's like anything that happens
Any
in life.
situation could
It's
be.
like Shireen with her house burning down when she was younger. She lived in Jamaica. That forced them to get uncomfortable and make the move to the States. If her house had not burnt down, I would not have my wife.
Yeah.
Like, obviously a horrible thing happened, but every bad can bring a good, and you never know if a good leads to a bad. It's just take everything with a grain of salt, and maybe.
When Shireen was telling you that story, and she said that her house was burned down and they had to come back to the United States, did you ask her, Jamaica new house?
Wow. Wow. I'll have to pocket that one for next time. I'm sure she'd appreciate that.
Oh my word!
I get enough.
Please don't tell her.
I get enough death glares from my wife on a regular basis. I don't think I need another one.
That's right. Oh my word!
There you go.
All right. Any last words?
I just want to say a good word on behalf of mayonnaise. I had mayonnaise earlier today, and hear me out. Mayonnaise gets a bad rap. Like, so many people are like, "Oh, mayonnaise, it's just oil," especially if you can get one made of avocado oil.
Uh-huh.
It's just oil and vinegar and eggs and some water and whatever else is in there. It's delicious.
It's not bad for you?
No, mayo's great.
Oh
But
my
if
word! I
if
love mayo.
If you get the mayo that doesn't have like soybean oil or canola oil, you want to get avocado oil based mayo. Bro, I love mayo. And Shireen is like, "Oh, you like mayo too much."
Oh my word! That's not possible.
It's great.
Yeah.
I put it on my breakfast sometimes.
Yeah.
I put it on
everything.
my burgers. You know, in Europe, they eat their fries with
mayonnaise.
mayo.
Yeah.
And when I went over there
done
to
that.
Germany and I saw that, I was like, ugh. And I tried it. I was
tried it.
like, nice.
Game changer.
Nice. And then now every time I eat fries with mayo and people are like, gross, I'm like, clearly you've never been to Germany before. This is how all the Germans do it. So basically, I just want to leave you guys on a note with mayonnaise is fantastic.
There you go. This episode of A Work in Progress brought to you by mayonnaise.
Brought to you by avocado oil-based mayonnaise. That's it.
Perfect. I love it. All right, we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.